The auxiliary transmission cooler lines on these trucks, from what I've heard, that's a pretty common issue that they'll rub a hole in them and start leaking. I thought I had mine fixed where they wouldn't rub, but I guess I didn't. Now let's see how hard it is to replace them. So unfortunately my microphones weren't working at the beginning of this video. So in the bag are the brand new transmission cooler lines from GM. The ones that go behind the bumper around to the auxiliary cooler down there in the bumper. Even though I've never done this before, I know the first step is to take these little plastic push pins and go ahead and pop all of these out. I can't remember how many of them there are, but there's quite a few across the top panel there. Take the push pins out, remove the top panel. Next, there are 4 10mm bolts right across the top of the grill. We're going to go ahead and take those out, then pull against the grill and gently work it back and forth. It will come out. There's just clips holding it in at this point. So now that we got the grill out of the way, we can see the actual transmission cooler lines going to the auxiliary cooler. That bottom line is the one that I suspect is leaking. Now if you watch my videos in an earlier video, I actually took a Sawzall and trimmed the frame away from the lines right there, because it's a pretty common issue on these trucks that the frame gets into those lines right there. I thought I had fixed the issue, but apparently not. When you're taking the grill out, all there is to it is the little push pins that you saw that I've taken out. I did buy new ones of those because I've lost a couple over time, and I'll leave the link to those on Amazon. Then after you get this plastic cover out of the way, there's 4 10mm bolts right here. You take those out. All right, once you get those out, there's just there's metal clips on the back of the grill, and you'll get your hand down here and just apply pressure and they'll just pop out. I did have one right here that did not want to pop out. It came off inside of here. It wasn't a big deal to pull that off, and you just stick it back on the grill. When it's time to reinstall it, you put it up here and apply firm pressure, and it will just pop back into that slot right there. But there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those metal clips on the back. So now that we gotten that far, and I hate the audio died out on me, we're going to go under the truck, because from what I'm seeing, these are the lines that we're replacing right here. This one is the one that's leaking. I do believe this lower one, but they come in a kit. We're going to replace them all. I have to get this loose, but first, with them diving down in here, the only other video that I found on YouTube about doing this says that the front bumper has to come off. So I'm gonna go underneath and see if I can find the electrical plug to unplug everything. If I can, an 18mm and a few bolts, and we should have the front bumper off. Looking up underneath the front bumper to the slightly off to the passenger side, you see that bundle of wires right there? That is a plug that we need to unplug, and that'll get our, to the best of my understanding, that gets the driving lights, that gets the park sensors, pretty much the whole 9 yards, just by unplugging that one plug right there. There, I got that wedge in there where it'll hold it up. Yep. So you'll have to lift the inside of that tab and then pull it out just like that. And there's a button right here. When you push that button, push down on this tab, and it should just pull apart, just like that. Well, now our front bumper should be disconnected. Not sure if you guys can see, but there's another 15mm. I believe it's 15mm. Yep. 15mm bolt right here that'll have to come loose to get it loose in the support. You can take these 2 bolts loose, or you can take this one loose. I prefer to take this one loose. The rest, these 2 may have to come loose as well, just to give it some wiggle room to get out. So I may go ahead and loosen those up as well. There's that one. I loosened both of them. This fell down. I do not feel like it's going to be in our way anymore, so I'm just going to leave that loose. Move to the other side and do the same thing. There's that one. once again, whenever those two came loose, this bar's just kind of flopping around now. So unless it's absolutely in the way, I'm just going to leave that there. I don't want to take any more bolts out than I have to. The more bolts you take out, the more chance it is you lose one. To the best of my understanding, there's this bolt right here and another one right down in there. And that is pretty much all that there is. That one right here and this one right here. So if I'm wrong about that, we'll find out as soon as I get those two out. Once again, no audio. So I pulled the two 18mm bolts out on each side, two on the driver's side, two on the passenger side, and voila, bumper comes off. I don't suggest one person trying to handle this thing by themselves, but if you're in a situation like I am and there's nobody else around, you gotta do what you gotta do. It's not unmanageable, but it is oblong, and it will, it's just hard to handle for one person, but it is very doable. Getting it off anyway, we're yet to put it back on. The next step is going to be to pull the air box out. All it is unlock the mass airflow and unplug it. Slide the red clip back, squeeze a button and unplug it. Then a 5/16 socket will loosen this clamp right here. And then you should be able to just pop this whole box out. Right like so. I'll find a rag to put over this best I can. Just to keep, it's not sealed off tight. Hopefully I'll have that back on before tonight. So really it's not that bad. All you had to do, because this was up here, if you guys remember a few minutes ago, this was up here, I guess something like this. Yeah, it was up here just like that. All right, covering my transmission lines where I couldn't see them, and covering the transmission cooler lines where I couldn't see them, and just being in the way, just a nuisance. So I was trying to get these two little push pins out, and they're out not easy now, and they go into the side of this support. Now I'm gonna lay this up here, put this in my ever so growing bucket of bolts up here. To get this piece off, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 13mm bolts if I remember right. Then there were 10mm nuts that go on these right here, these little studs here. So once you pulled these 3 10mm studs and then pulled the 13mm bolts, which is one here, one here, one here, I went ahead and removed the headlights. All right, to get the headlights out, you've got the one bolt here, and you have one here, and one around here on the side. So as it's coming out, it'll be one here, one here, one here, and one here. They're all 10mm. Once I got that off, I took the hood latch off. You have to be very careful taking the hood latch off. Don't push it and scratch it. You want to see that impression behind it so you can put it exactly back where it was. But now that this is off, I have really good access to my cooler that I wished I'd have went ahead and bought while I was buying stuff, because I thought I could just get in here and change it with the bumper on and everything would be great. But looks like it's not the case. I'll definitely wash it out extremely good before I put it back on. But now I have pretty doggone good access to my lines. And the next part is go ahead and get these changed. They're gonna come loose on the back side right here. All you do is pull this little collar back, and there is a clip in there that there's a clip in there that holds that line in place. You can see the little metal clip right there. Getting a hold of it and getting it out may be a different thing, but this line and the one on the bottom are the same. Once these come loose, we'll take this bolt right here loose and this one right here loose. That's 10mm. That'll have all this loose.
and then you should be able to just pull it out here in the open. Then on this side, there's this clip right here we'll have to get opened up. I'll get it opened up shortly. Just take a screwdriver and stick down in there and prise it apart, and it should open up something like what I just did with my finger. Anyway, I'll get that shortly. Get this clip off, and then these here we'll do the same way. Just pull this and then get in here on that with a pick. Just like this. Trying not to damage that clip, because to the best of my knowledge I have to use it as it goes back on, and pull it up and pull it up. It's probably going to want to go flying, but there's that clip. Now we should be able to just take and pull that line out, but it's held in this here still. Alright, so I pulled these clips and pulled the collar back, pull the clip up, pull the collar back, pull the clip up. I wiggled this. All this it does is you open it up with a screwdriver and this will come undone. Kind of aggravating, but it works. Got to pry the top up, and then you got to pry this little ledge right here up out of its holder. So pry that up, then pry this up, and it comes open. Alright, then right here you'll pull the clip out, pull the collar back, pull the clip out, and you got to pull them both back at the same time. They'll come loose, and then there's just enough room to fit them between this and this, and they'll come right up there like this. Actually, they just hang loose. I'm trying to keep them in the position to keep them from draining out all over everywhere though. So anyway, my battery's dead. I gotta go put you guys on charge, and I'll clean up this mess and start figuring out how I want to take the rest of it out. I guess the whole block at one time, or do I want to pull these lines, then pull the block and all that. So the next thing I'm gonna do, I got sidetracked on the telephone. I'm gonna come right in here and take this 10mm bolt loose. Trusty ratchet wrench. There's that one. That should have it blocked loose to where we can pull all that out at one time. There's that one. I'm gonna lay it right there. There. Couldn't even believe I was gonna do that without getting it all, without losing it. Wiggle these lines around. That one's been a little bit aggravating, but there. I just got those out.
So I didn't see anything that fit the description, but it definitely looks like something pointy got up against this and rubbed a hole in it.
I hope the noise in the background is not bothering you. I'm vacuuming the AC system down because I did change the condenser out. I'm going to try to make a separate video of that. But anyway, one of the modifications I did earlier on this truck, the transmission temperatures, they never really got out of whack, but they always ran about 160 to 180. And I got to reading about the Wherli custom fab thermostat bypass. Now I did put that in on the other block. I do not think it had anything to do with the line busting. 500,000 miles, rubber line, lines are gonna break, lines are gonna bust. You're just gonna have stuff like that happen. The transmission temperatures drastically came down when I installed this. Summertime's coming up, I definitely want it back in here. So the first thing we're gonna do is, and I can't say enough good about that. That is one of the first and only mods that I've done to this truck as far as anything running wise, and it has been well worth the money. I'll leave a link to it in the description of this video. And as you guys know, main thing about this little clip right here, don't let it fly away when it comes out. All right, so now that we got the snap ring out, we're gonna grab a hold of this and pull it out. This is the thermostat. This is what opens and closes. It helps to bring your transmission temperatures up to, I won't ever grab that with those, up to temperature on cold mornings, cold days, and stuff like that. But whenever you're towing heavy out in the desert where it's 110 degrees, it can still run up to the same temperatures it would have before, but you have a lot more time when you're running down the road at 120. Empty going down the road, this thing runs about 120 now, where it used to run no less than 160, just riding down the highway. And then whenever you start hitting high temperatures, you know, high outside temperatures pulling hills with a heavy load, well, next thing you know, you're at 200 degrees on the transmission temperature. When I put this thing in, I haven't seen 200 degrees since. So for me, the towing that I do, the places I go, very worthwhile investment. Now, this doesn't have an orientation how it goes in, but anytime something's made in the USA, I like to see the USA upright. And I think when I put that in, that'll have it facing me. Not a big deal, just a personal preference. So, put our snap ring back in. I do have a video of installing this without the lines off. I'll leave a link to it in the description of this video, right beside of the link to where you can go to Wherli Custom Fab and get your own. If you want one, if you're looking for upgrades to do to your truck, especially if you tow, this would be one I'd highly recommend. And the reason I went for it, I just want to pull these around a little bit, make sure that snap ring is set. The reason I went for it is I'd heard about these thermostats failing and causing the transmission temperature to rise really high whenever you were towing. It wouldn't open, it wouldn't let the fluid out here to this auxiliary cooler, and you'd wind up overheating the transmission and causing premature transmission failure. So I don't remember how much this was. I think it was less than 100 bucks, and to me it's been well worth the money. One of those things I'd definitely buy again.
So reinstalling the new lines really wasn't that bad. It was just hard to push those lines through behind the muffler bracket and keep them clean and not let anything get into the new lines. That was probably the hardest part. But just go ahead and feed them through, wiggle them a little bit, feed them through, and eventually they will come right on through. Everything will fit right back into place. These lines look like an updated line that actually formed to the truck a little bit better, but there's still no way to keep them from, it's just too big of a hose for too tight a spot. I do believe that I'll have issues with them again in the future. But at this time, I really can't figure out a way to fix it any better than what it is. So before you try to put the lines back in, make sure the clips are into the receiving end on the block or on the transmission cooler. That way whenever you push these lines up on there, they'll just snap into place. They'll push past the clips and the clips will close behind them, locking them into place. That's pretty much all over for the block. That was the top line. Now here goes the bottom line. And Now all we gotta do is put our 10mm bolts back in and we'll be done with this part. So I went ahead and put the two 10mm bolts back in. The top one, right here. And the bottom one, right here. Went ahead and tightened those up. Then I checked the lines. They did put a little rubber cushion around one of the lines, but I felt like they should have put another one. I took the one off the other set of lines eventually and put on here. I don't know if I showed that later in the video or not. And that just kind of made me feel better. I did run my hands around and make sure that they weren't rubbing. But right here, there's no way to keep that from rubbing. That's always going to be smashed between the bumper bracket and that's just, feel like they really could have done something different right there. But it looks like everything's together. I'm ready to get some fluid in it and fire it up. Don't forget to push these collars back up over the clips. You don't want that popping out going down the road.
Alright. Is it spewing oil? Not yet. I got it running. I'll check the transmission fluid. It was showing full before I started it. So it is right on the bottom of the stick. So we need to go get some transmission fluid. Now normally I've always, in 500,000 miles, I've always put, or almost 500,000 miles, I've never put anything in this truck except for the AC Delco brand fluid. But today, I'm gonna go ahead and use this because that's what I put in to get me home. So it's just been sitting here running for about an hour. The transmission lines have not dripped a bit, so we're gonna go ahead and start putting that back together soon. Go ahead and get the bumper back on it. There's no fluid coming off the lines right there. This looks as good as I can get it, even though I don't like it. But yeah, all that seems to be good. I do have some residual, but that's not from since I put the lines on. I got one right here, one here, 13mm. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten those up. I'm just going back over everything, trying to make sure there is nothing else I missed. Transmission full of fluid. You ever wonder, is one of these screens worth it? I think it's ugly to see them. Just don't look right on the white truck. But look at all that crap that's on there. Very much so worth it. That's what most everybody's interested in, the engine hours and the mileage.
And then they come around and ask, why do I have a 200-mile-an-hour speedometer? Canadian truck. But it is in miles per hour. They will not change. They're actually, it's gauges, it's not digital. Also, the coolant is different, and oil pressure is different than a US spec truck. So, but there it is. So I know when I first started looking at changing those cooler lines, first thing I did went to YouTube. I only found one other video. That's why I tried to make this video. I apologize for the audio being off multiple times in the video, and I was having to swap back and forth between the GoPro and the phone. And I don't really like using the GoPro, but anyway, I hope it was good enough to help you out some. I wished I could have made a better video. We just kind of figured it out together. That core support, I wished I had better video of taking it off, putting it back on. I could have shown putting the bumper on, plugging the plug back in and all that stuff, but I didn't want to make a video any longer than what it had to be. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps me out. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.